Buying a new construction home is one of the largest purchases that you'll ever have in your life. One of the most important purchases and one of the most important events next to your wedding and the birth of your favorite child, right? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 most common mistakes that people make when they go to purchase a new build home. Some of these mistakes happen before they even set foot in a salesperson's office. And stick around, I have one bonus mistake that people are making. They're hearing lenders say things like date the rate and the term buy down. What does it mean exactly? So I'll go through these in detail so you don't make the mistake of falling for a trap from a lender, a realtor, or a salesperson. Now, the first mistake I'm seeing people make is they're not researching the community and they're not researching the builder properly. Now, what can you do? Well, number one, you can check with the Arizona Registrar of Contractors. I will have a link to that website and you can go on there, look and see if any complaints have been filed. Usually if there's a lawsuit, there's going to be a complaint first. So this is a great place to start your research. Now, number 2, another way that you can research the builder and the community is you can ask the salesperson for references. I mean, you could even do this over the phone. One thing to be aware of is they're probably going to fight you a little bit on this because not many salespeople that I've talked to have realtors that actually ask for references. So they're not really familiar with it. Here's how the process should go. You ask the salesperson reaches out to some of their clients that they have, either whose home have already been built or are in the process of building, and they say, hey, would you mind if I shared your information with a potential home buyer because they're doing their due diligence and they just want to make sure that your new build's going smoothly and that you're perfectly happy. Do you mind if I share that information? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, go ahead, share my information. I mean, I had other businesses before I was a real estate agent, and I had absolutely no problem asking my previous clients if they minded if I would give out their phone number or their information and have them chat with a future client. So if they're giving you pushback on that, it's definitely going to raise a red flag. So ask the salesperson for some references. And if you have a realtor that you're working with, you can always ask them. I think a realtor's more inclined to give you their client's information than the salesperson, but the salesperson's obviously going to have a larger book of clients. So ask for references. Now, number 3, what you could do is you could join the different community Facebook groups. So usually what happens in the process of a new build is that a realtor will start a Facebook group and try to get leads. I've done it myself, to be honest. I've got a few Facebook groups. I'll tell you about a really cool one in a second here. But you can join these Facebook community groups. And usually when you're searching into the search bar, you can search something like, let's say, harvest at Queen Creek. You'll type in harvest at Queen Creek. And believe it or not, a Facebook group will probably show up, or 5 or 6, which is what I think they're up to now. And you can join one of those groups. Now, granted, some people are going to be like, hey, if you're not living here, I'm not going to let you into the group. I actually have one for Harvest Queen Creek. You're more than welcome to go join that one if you guys are looking in that community, and ask people in that particular group how their experience has been. Feel free, and hopefully, if you join another group, you can try to tell the realtor that runs the group, like, hey, I'm just here trying to look for information on a new build. They're going to then obviously try to solicit you and whatnot. I actually tried to join a Magnolia Grove one because I had a client that was moving to Magnolia Grove, which is in Santan Valley, and the realtor wouldn't let me into the group. And I even explained it, like, hey, I have a client that's moving in here. We kind of want to see how D.R. Horton's doing with the new builds there. And she would not let me into the group. And, I even messaged the girl and got no response. So that's not very professional, is it? Yeah. And number 4, the final thing you can do, and one of the most unique things that you can do, is join my Facebook group. I started a Facebook group called Arizona New Builds. Discuss your builder and community here. I believe we're up to about 100 members right now, and I'm doing a lot of advertising for it, spending money, trying to get people together into one Facebook group where, you can do searches, you can go on here and obviously research the community, ask people's advice, because as of right now, there's really no central location for everybody to talk about builders, communities, and things like that. So I feel like it's a much needed thing on Facebook. I mean, we need more social media, right? So go check that out. I'll have the link for it in the description below. You guys are more than welcome to join. I will ask for your email address though. So leave your email address. If there's anything I can do to help you, just reach out. And that brings us up to the second mistake, and that's going to be skipping a third-party inspection. I've heard some salespeople actually tell new build clients that they don't need an inspection because the city comes out and inspects the property and they pass all of these city inspectors. They're coming and checking out the truss, they're coming and checking out the electrical, the plumbing, etc. But I'll tell you what, man, there are a ton of problems with new builds, and they give these certificate of occupancies away like they're, like they're free. Like you don't even need to pass certain things. So even though there's a building inspector that comes out and checks these out for the city, there are still a ton of problems. If you guys haven't seen this dude Sci-Fi on TikTok, check out his stuff. I mean, I've posted some of his stuff. I've reposted it, and it just gets a ton of views because he'll go through to like the 1-year checkup on these new builds, the 1-year warranty checkup to see what's wrong, and he'll find just a ton of things still wrong with these homes, stuff that the first inspectors didn't even catch. So it's very important to have your home inspected. If you can get Cy, then hey, he's a great inspector. He knows a lot of the, he knows like the rules, like how far the plumbing vent can be away from the AC ducts and things like that. And those little things that some inspectors might not know. So it's really, really crucial that you guys get a good inspector to inspect these homes. And one thing that people will sort of have a false misconception of is that they only need one inspection, the final inspection. Well, you know, with the way things are going, I definitely recommend having 3 inspections, at least 2 inspections. So the first inspection is going to be before they lay the foundation and before they put in all of the post-tension slab, basically. So what this will entail is just an inspector going out, making sure that everything measures up to the plans that are specific to your new build. So if you have electrical ducts that are in there, you know, for instance, that are going to be running through the slabs, plumbing, obviously, you're going to have, make sure that the toilet's not too close to the wall, things like that, so that things are spaced properly and they're where they need to be. So that's going to be your first inspection. Your second inspection is going to be a pre-drywall inspection. And what that entails is someone going out before they put up all of the lathing and things like that, and obviously the stucco and whatnot, and pretty much just the interior walls, the drywall, right? Before they do all that, they're going to check and make sure that everything is to code. Your AC ducts, they can't specifically check like electrical and AC, like turn it on because it's not on yet, but they can make sure there's, you know, good duct work. None of the ducts are actually being squeezed closed, things like that. And then they can just make sure that, you know, the foundation is in good shape, all the beams, all the load-bearing walls are where they need to be, and they're properly they're properly maintained. Also, go out there, guys, at your pre-drywall inspection, make sure you're going there and taking pictures so that you can see where you can nail things, where you can't. Obviously, you can always use a stud finder afterwards, but little tip is that it really helps to get in there and take some pictures, you know, during that pre-drywall inspection, before or after, but before they put up the drywall. And inspection number 3 is going to be the final inspection. So this should typically occur about 2 weeks prior to you closing and doing like the home orientation and the walkthrough and all that stuff. So 2 weeks prior, that should give them enough time to make any necessary fixes and, you know, correct any items that come onto the inspection report, any items that the inspector finds. So the problem with this that I've discovered is that, okay, if you're 2 weeks from closing, they may not have everything done. They may not have, they may not have the place painted. They may not have touch-ups done. They may not have appliances. There's certain things that can hold up that inspection. So, I mean, we've had it go down to like 2-3 days prior to closing. Luckily, we've had the builder come in there and make those corrections before closing. Sometimes, though, the builder won't be able to make it in time, and you'll be closing without making those corrections because they have the certificate of occupancy. Then that's when you have to put the gloves on and say, I'm not closing, or, you know, tell your realtor, say, hey, tell those guys we're not closing, and then we go to bat for you. So that's a great reason to have a realtor in itself. I'm going to have a whole section on that in a minute, but just having us go to bat for you in cases like that really helps. Mistake number 3 I see people making is that they're sacrificing the location they want. So there could be a few reasons why you would sacrifice location. Number 1, you could sacrifice location to save a little bit or to get more for your money. So you're moving out from the general Phoenix metropolitan area. You're moving into the outskirts of Santan Valley, outskirts of Buckeye, outskirts of Sun City, Glendale. Actually, Peoria would probably be a little bit more of the outskirts, Vistancia, places like that. So you're going to get more for your money there, but definitely it's going to be a little bit of a drive into any of these city-like places, downtown restaurant-style places, just the entertainment complexes that are all within the Phoenix metro area. So you're going to have a bigger house, but people are sacrificing location. And in the end, you got to decide if sacrificing location is really something that you want to do, because I see a lot of people that regret it further on. And at the end of the day, you can afford what you can afford, right? I totally get it. Now, another way you can sacrifice the location is you can move into a home that backs to a busy street or it's near a busy street. So my clients that do this, I tell them, hey, you're going to have car traffic going by. It's a 45-mile-an-hour zone here, but you're going to have cars going about 60 miles an hour throughout the day because that's how people drive here. They do 60, 65, and if you're in the left lane and you're doing the speed limit, then you're going to get honked at, or you're going to get your tail ridden from someone else. So get in that right lane, and remember, if you purchase a home near busy streets, you're definitely going to be hearing that pretty much all day and all night, and it could definitely affect those weekends, or just make sure that you have a really nice water feature in your backyard where you can drown out that traffic noise. So that's something that I've seen people make the mistake, is just getting something too close to a busy street. Another thing, guys, put your tin cap on for this one. So one thing I've seen people do is sacrifice their health. And I guess, most new build communities are going to be next to farmland. And in case you guys didn't know, the dirtiest crop that has the most pesticides, the most fertilizer, is grown in Arizona. It's one of its biggest crops, and that is cotton. Cotton is what is known as the world's dirtiest crop. So if you're going to be next to a cotton field, I would double check, make sure that when they're putting those pesticides on, they're not drifting into the neighborhood. I think you guys have all heard of pesticide drift. It's something that is a reality, and it can take a toll on your health. It could be cornfields as well. It could be any type of non-organic field that sits next to the community. They're using a lot of fertilizer because they're totally killing the ground soil, and then they're just hitting that thing with pesticides quite a bit to keep all the bugs off, herbicides as well to keep other plants away that they don't want growing, and taking away that that real estate, for lack of a better term. So make sure when you move next to a community that you know what's around you, and you know what the frequency of the fertilization is, and if it's going to affect your health or not. So if that's something that's important to you guys, you probably didn't think of this. That's why I try to think of off-the-cuff things, and it's something, honestly, that my family and I looked out for when we moved here. And I swear, we still have friends that are back in Chicago. They have a ton of gastrointestinal problems, and they live right across from a cornfield. And it's like their whole family. I'm like, how can you not see that this is the problem? So just make sure, if you live next to any type of farm, wouldn't suggest it, but you figure out what exactly is going on there. It's important. Eventually, that farmland is probably going to get sold off, built into homes. That farmer's probably going to move out to Buckeye, put some land out there, and continue what they're doing. But in the meantime, your health and well-being is definitely more important, I would say, than location. Now, one more thing, kind of getting back to the first point I made, is that when you sacrifice location and you move further away, you got to realize that you're going to be far from the expressways, you're going to be far from the airports, and you may possibly be far from work. And I know a lot of people are moving to the outskirts because they're working from home, but what we're also seeing is all of these employers are starting to say to their employees, hey, you guys got to come back into work. So make sure that you do that 2 days a week, 3 days a week, some even 5 days a week. And is your employer going to make you now come into work? And for a lot of those people that have come from California and moved here, I know they've had their employer sign something for the lender, but at the end of the day, the employer can still fire the employee if they're not coming into work. So hopefully all the people that I've helped that have moved here, I've seen a lot of them get those papers signed, and hopefully they're not having any issues with having to go back into work. So that's another thing. Make sure that if you have to make that commute wherever it is, that you live somewhere, I would say, within 15 minutes of an expressway that can get you there quickly. Unless you really like driving or riding your motorcycle or something, then, take all the time you need. Or get yourself a plane. You can move to the Pegasus Air Park and just fly a plane to work every day, land at Scottsdale Airport, or one of the many airports that they have around here. Great idea. You can always do that. If you guys are looking for a home with an airplane hangar, just you know who to call. Okay, so another mistake I see people do is that they have to move twice. So I got a few hacks for you guys I'm going to go over, okay? So hack number 1, let's say you want to move to a certain community, and this is actually a situation that I have going on right now. I have a client who's purchasing in Ellsworth Ranch in Queen Creek, and so here's the issue. They have a contingency, right? They're not sure if they'll qualify without the contingency. So they're going to try to qualify without it. However, if you do not qualify without the contingency, which means that basically you have to sell your house in order to move, then there's a solution for you. And what the builder will do, just to explain this to you guys, is like if you went under contract with Taylor Morrison, and they're all different, but I'm going to give you an example of Taylor Morrison right now because that's the last builder I was at. So if you go under contract with them, you have a house you need to sell, they'll make you put that house on the market within 7 days. It's in the contract, right? 7 days, and then you have 90 days to actually close on the home. So if it takes you, or if it takes Taylor Morrison 12 months to build this home, and it's probably going to take about 8, I mean, there's basically 3 months. You have 5 months. So you're going to move all your stuff down here, have to put some of it in storage, and then rent an apartment or stay somewhere. And it's going to be such a pain in the butt because you're going to be moving twice, ideally. I mean, unless you get a short-term rental, which is the second thing that I'll go over here in a second, kind of give my cards away. But here's a way that you can mitigate that or just eliminate it altogether. What you can do is you can go under contract. You can say, Mom, Dad, love you guys. Here's the story. So I want to buy this new build and I need you on the contract in order to qualify, but you don't have to buy the home for me. See, here's what I'm going to do. 60 days before close, I'm going to sell my house. And then, I'm going to get a lease back so that I can stay here while my house is closing. So once my house closes here in, let's say I live in Washington, once my home closes, I'm going to stay for like 20 to 30 days extra because that's built into the contract. You can do that. Ask your realtor about it. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and take you guys off the contract. You're not moving down here. It's no big deal. So builders have no problem with that. And you could be upfront with them and tell them that this is what you're doing. So take your parents off the contract, go ahead, requalify with Taylor Morrison or whoever the builder is. And then you're the only person on that contract and you're already have your house closed, sold, you're ready to go make the move. You've timed it so well so that you can now move from your home in Washington down to Arizona, and you can move only one time. So that is the first hack, okay? The second hack that you can do, if you have no choice and you absolutely have to do that, is you can get a short-term rental. Now, everybody looks at short-term rentals and they're like, oh my gosh, what if I'm moving in March and it's going to cost so much money because March is spring training season and there's so many people that want to go down to Arizona. The weather's so beautiful. It's absolutely lovely. And, everybody wants to be down there. So here's what you can do. You can actually find an apartment complex, and I'll have a link for one down below. That's actually in Gilbert, Arizona. You can find an apartment complex that has short-term rentals. And utilizing a short-term rental in an apartment complex is going to be a lot cheaper than utilizing a short-term rental home because obviously homeowners are trying to get as much as they can. And in some of these big new mega apartment buildings, they have to still fill this space. These things aren't filled up yet. So you can have an opportunity to go ahead and rent a short-term apartment. And let me tell you, it's not going to be the greatest thing in the world. You're going to have paper-thin walls. It's probably going to be a rough experience, especially if you have kids that need to go out and play. But at the end of the day, it's something that you can do, and at least it's a choice you have so you don't have to move twice. Now, here's the third thing you guys can do, and this is a special offer from me. I had to throw something in there being a salesperson, right? So I don't like to consider myself a salesperson, but we have a short-term rental here. We will give you up to 2 weeks to stay in between your move. You will still have to move your stuff into storage, obviously, get it down here, or you can leave it up to wherever you're at. You can come stay down here for up to 14 days, and then you can move everything into your home once it's ready to go. So that is another option that I just put out there for my clients because I did get a short-term rental, and I do want my clients to utilize it. That was one of the part of the business plan that we had to just help people move down here and obviously help my business. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it's a great place to stay. You got a golf cart, 2 resort pools, beautifully updated home, and you really can't complain about it. So no complaints, 5-star reviews only. So those are the things you can do so you don't have to move twice. Now on to the fifth thing, and that is not using a realtor. I had to throw this one in there, guys. So not using a realtor, I think, is a mistake. I really do think it's a mistake. I know sometimes it's like you feel like you're bothering the realtor by having to take them to these new build communities, but don't feel like that, guys. If you have somebody that you're working with and they're great, then, call them. They'll want you to call them. They will be there in the blink of an eye. They will skip their child's first birthday party. They will skip their wedding to be there. Probably not their wedding, but, they'll be there for you. Okay. So please call them. They want to be there. All right. So what you got to realize is that the salesperson represents the builder. Okay. This is the person that you're going to establish a relationship with. Don't get me wrong, over 8-9 months, but that person, they're not the boss. They have to go to the builder, and the builder really, you're just a number to them. They don't know you. They don't care about you. The salesperson's going to care a little bit, but at the end of the day, they have to run everything by the builder. So here's the thing. You're going to develop a relationship with that salesperson over these 8 months, probably, if they're a good salesperson. Okay. If problems come up, you're probably going to feel a little bit awkward. Like, hey, this wasn't right, or this isn't where it should be. There are some people that are like, hey, F you, I will talk to the salesperson, make this right. There are other people that are just a little bit skittish and maybe don't want the confrontation. So what I like to say is, as a real estate agent and a client, you're the good cop, I'm the bad cop. So you can express things to your salesperson if they don't get finished, or if there's something that's bothering you. And because you've built this relationship, then, you're just not comfortable saying it to them. You can ask us to do it. And I do have a client whose parents, he's over in Fulton Homes, and he's buying from the same person that his parents bought from. And they're all like a big family. So if there's any problems, like, it's a little awkward to go in there and show frustrations. However, I'm able to go in there and show frustrations. I'm helping you out. I'm your realtor. So we got your back. That's the thing that you got to realize. Like, we will advocate for you. We will do what we can. Pretty much anything you command us to do, we're going to do it. We're going to advocate for you and be there for you guys. Another thing that realtors do is continuous updates. So I always check in with my clients, see how everything is going. Hey, do you need a picture of it? Have you received a picture from your new build salesperson? Some builders are better than others at keeping people and clients up to date. So that's the thing. We'll be there for you. If they aren't, we will make sure that everything is on track, because obviously you guys have a timeline that you're following, and you need to make sure that that timeline is followed by the builder as well. So we'll give you continuous updates as well. Another thing that we'll do at the beginning is obviously go through the contract with you. Now, I'm not a lawyer. However, I've seen a new build contract or two, and I'm happy to go through everything. And the whole thing that I'm trying to do is just let you guys know, like, hey, you're putting $25,000 down, some cases $80,000, right? So you're putting all this money down. So here's how you can protect it. Here's how you can lose it. Here are the contingencies. Here's ways, that you can get out of the contract. So there are certain things you need to be aware of, and the builder's contract is skewed obviously towards the builder. They write the contract. It's not an Arizona contract. It's their own contract. So it's not only good for you to go through that with your realtor, but also with an attorney, just to be sure that you cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and all that fun stuff. So it's definitely nice to have somebody there with you, especially if you aren't getting an attorney to look at it, and most people honestly don't, but having somebody there with you really helps. So another thing that we do is we help out with inspections. So let's say you live far away and you can't come down for every inspection. A lot of people can't even come to the final walkthrough because they're so busy with kids back home. They're busy getting their house prepared, or they're busy moving, and I totally understand it. So your realtor is going to attend these things for you. They're going to attend the inspections. They're going to attend your final walkthrough. I've gone through for hours. I think the record for a final walkthrough is 6 hours that I went through Taylor Morrison home. We had to sit there and tape everything. Unfortunately, it wasn't a little bit further along than I had wished, but hey, that's what we do. We're another set of eyes there for you to help you. And when I say tape everything, there's going to be little deficiencies throughout your home, like paint or drywall issues, or hey, maybe this wall is not perfectly square, things like that. And we'll go around with our eyes that we've used for these past years being a real estate agent, and we'll try to find all the deficiencies in your home, tape them up along with your new build representative and with you if you're there. But it's great to have an extra set of eyes there for that final walkthrough, and usually the home orientation as well. And finally, another great thing about having a realtor is, hey, you have a friend. You have somebody that you can hang out with, whenever your spouse gets mad at you. No, I'm just kidding. So one thing you can do is you can use us as a resource for different contractors, pool builders, landscapers, things like that, handymen. I have people always ask me, oh, hey, send me your handyman. Who do you guys use? So one of my biggest assets is having a great pool builder that does a phenomenal job, and I even have a video on it if you guys want to watch it somewhere on my YouTube channel. But having all of these resources, and I know these are all great prices. I know they're great people. They've done a ton of work for my clients, and it's tough for someone to put their neck out for another business. And I've learned earlier in my other businesses, it's tough to do that, because if somebody goes in and does a crappy job, it's going to come back to you. But these guys have done a really solid job. They've been there for me. They've been there for my clients all throughout the pandemic and beyond. So these are a really good network of people that I have that we can, kind of bestow onto you. And I'm sure other realtors have great networks as well. So it really helps, especially when you move in. You're not going to ask neighbors who don't really have any experience because they're probably looking for the same thing that you guys are. So that always helps. So some great reasons to have a realtor, right? And here's the bonus. The bonus, number 6, the biggest mistake. And I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I would say it's just something that buyers go into with lenders and builders, and they don't quite know what they're getting themselves into. And it's really important to know what you're doing when someone tells you date the rate, or, we're going to have this buy down, this 2-1 buy down. What are these things? So the mistake that I'm trying to convey is that you may not be educated 100% on what these products are and what they mean. So let's talk about dating the rate. So dating the rate right now is kind of rough because it's around 7.5%, 8%. Kind of looks like Jamie Foxx's Wanda character from In Living Color. Very, very sexy character back in the early 90s that used to come on to, one of my favorite shows. And so dating the rate is going to be basically what a lender will tell you. Like, hey, you're just dating the rate. Once rates go back down, you're going to be all good. You can refinance and you can get rid of that rate and you can get yourself a lower rate, maybe in the 6s, maybe even in the 3s. I mean, do you guys really think that rates are going to go back down to 3%? There would have to be something catastrophic to happen. If that happened, prices would also shoot back up. We'd have a ton of inflation again. It would be crazy. So I don't think rates are going to get that low. They may come down in the summer. Mortgage rates are really impossible to predict, but lenders and builders and everybody else will tell you to date the rates. So dating the rate, just realize that it may not go the other way. Whatever your rate is, make sure that you can afford the payment from now until your 30-year amortization schedule is over. And also what they don't tell you is that there's costs to refinance. I mean, it's not like it's free to just go ahead and refinance. So let's say rates did come down, you got into like a 9% rate. Rates came down to like 5%, you wanted to refinance. Now, I'm no lender, but I have a pretty good idea of what the costs are. You're going to have an appraisal cost, which is going to be somewhere at least $600. You're going to have loan origination charges, which are going to be probably somewhere between 1.5% to 2%. So let's say you have a $500,000 loan. 2% of that is going to be $10,000 that it's going to cost you to refinance. Did they tell you about that? I don't know if they told you about that, but that's going to be kind of rough. So you're going to have title costs between $1,500 and $2,500 as well. So all these fees add up, and I mean, you're basically out like, $13,000 just to refinance. And another thing they don't tell you is that, okay, if you're dating the rate for, let's say, 5 years, you refinance, pay all these fees, you're already 5 years through paying a lot of your interest off, because these amortization schedules, obviously you're paying your interest first and more of your principal as you go on, right? So here's the thing, you're restarting that clock to another 30 years. So if you're 10 years through and you refinance at this lower rate, well, you got another 30 years. So, I mean, you better be paying off that principal pretty quick or making some extra payments to catch up, because now you've just reset that clock and you have another 30 years to where, you're basically going to be making payments and not own your home. So there is actually a calculator. It's called a refinance calculator from Nerdwallet. I'll have the link to that down below to see if it's even worth refinancing, because it might not be. And another issue, what if the home doesn't appraise? Okay, so 3 years down the line, let's say the market goes down and you only put 3%, you put maybe, at most 10% down, let's say. Well, what's going to happen is that you're going to go to get a loan for that amount that you owe, and then you're going to pay for the appraisal, and the home's not going to appraise. So what if that happens? Nobody ever, no lender will tell you that. Well, what if the home doesn't appraise? They're just going to say that home prices are going to keep going up. So you run the risk of the home not appraising, not being able to qualify for that appraisal in the future. Now, if you put down 20%, 30%, something like that on your home, chances are it's going to appraise even if the market goes down. I don't see the market dipping 20%, but it's always a possibility. So just keep in mind, it's not guaranteed that you can refinance. And plus, you have to be making a lot of money. You have to have good credit still. You have to not, miss any of your payments. So make sure that you're staying on the ball and you're being a responsible adult. So that's all the date the rate stuff I'm going to tell you guys about. Now, the other thing you'll be hearing about are 2-1 buy downs. Now, here's the deal with 2-1 buy downs, or some cases 3-2-1 buy downs. They're popular in the 80s. They've come back. There were some really crazy ones back in the 80s. I think like 98765, like crazy, because rates were like 18% back then. So right now, a popular one's just a 2-1 buy down. So you'll see a lot of these builders advertising, hey, we can get you into like a 4% rate, 6% rate. I mean, I've seen like 3.5%, 4%. But the thing is, you're getting some costs. You're getting some money to pay for that buy down. I mean, anybody can buy their rate down if you have the money. You just got to put it towards, you just got to buy points, right? So what they're doing, like Taylor Morrison, for instance, is they're giving you 4% back. You can use it towards closing costs. You can use it to buy down the rate. And you're taking this money, you're putting it to get you're putting it towards, you're buying down the rate. And instead of having like a 7.5% rate, you'll have a 5.5% rate the first year. And your, payment looks great, right? And then the second year, you're going to have a 6.5% rate, because that's the one that's 7.5 minus 1. So you're down to 6.5%. So then you have a 6.5% rate for that second year. And then come the third year, you're back up to your normal 7.5% interest rate. So my only thing that I'd want to say with that is that you want to make sure that you can pay, obviously, that 7.5%. Your lender should do a nice job in making sure that you can go ahead and pay that. However, what they'll tell you too is like, oh, you can always refinance in 2 years, but yeah, once again, if you refinance, look at these costs that you have when you're, loan origination fees, appraisals, and title fees. I mean, it's all going to be in there. So just realize that, guys, when you're going to refinance, it is not cheap and it is not free. So if you can find somewhere, send me the link to it and I'll market it to my clients. But that is that. And those are the 6 things that I think are really important. And guys, once again, if you're looking to join a Facebook group, check out the New Build, AZ New Build group that I have. It'll be down in the description. And if you guys are looking for a realtor, looking for any help, I like to say I'm pretty outgoing and, I know my stuff and, I work my butt off for you guys. So please feel free to reach out. Would love the opportunity to work with you, and we'll see you on the next video. And if you guys want to check out those apartment buildings, by the way, that I was talking about, you can see my top 3 Gilbert apartments there right here in this video. Feel free to watch it. We'll see you on the next one.